Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You've always got to have hope, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with, once more, as always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion, because, quite frankly, that's how we like to do things around here. And if you like how we do things, I'm assuming you do, you're listening right now, you can subscribe to the podcast. We'd love it if you did. You can find us over at Apple, Spotify, Google, basically wherever you find your podcast. There was one other, but I was forgetting what it was. But also, you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel as well. Also, we'd love it if you'd follow us on social media. You can do that on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, I say that a lot, but I mean it, please give us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest movie news and reviews from the world of, well, like I said, movies, television, basically the moving image, because that's what we love to talk about it, and we love when you come and read about it, so please pay us a visit. On this episode, we're diving into more hot docs coverage as we are talking with director Mohamed El Aboudi, I hope I pronounced that right, about his film School of Hope, which is playing right now at the Hot Docs Canadian International Documentary Film Festival until May 9th online at hotdocs.ca for anybody living in Canada. I do recommend you go check it out for all sorts of lovely documentary filmmaking, and it's important to support documentary filmmaking and independent filmmaking, and this is a crystal clear example of that. But School of Hope is an interesting and fascinating little film because it takes a look at Morocco's Oulad Boukas tribe. Again, I hope I pronounced that right. Who are suffering from an extended drought caused by the climate crisis, even though they really have a tiny carbon footprint in their day-to-day lives. And it's, they have to deal with the fact that, again, their way of life of changing, and it also comes into play that there's a school been established, and for their children's future, they know that they want to put their kids in school, but it goes against so many of the instincts that they were brought up with, and it really makes for sort of a fascinating look at sort of transitioning from older ways to newer ways, and it gives a little bit of optimism, but also gives a little bit of, it shows sort of the difficulties behind it as well. And it's an excellent film. And we got the unique pleasure of talking with Mohamed about all this and so very much more. And I do hope you enjoy our conversation. But note, just so you know, we had some audio problems with this one, so it may be a little uneven. We tried to balance it out as best we could. You may hear my deviated septum a little more than you'd like to on this one, but it's a good conversation, so I hope you enjoy it. I did really love the film, and I was so fascinated by just sort of not just the educational system and sort of the importance and the yearning for these kids to learn, but it's sort of balancing with the traditional nature of the tribes, and given sort of the state of the drought and everything that was going on there, it really made for sort of an interesting dynamic inside the story that you were telling.
I think, it is working because of the two stories. They belong to each other, and they are affecting each other. So the nomad's life was affected by the drought, was affected by the climate change. So that's why they settle in that area of Morocco looking for water. And the effect of the drought has made the parents start to worry about the future of their kids. So that's why they decided not to leave the area and to go back, or to go to big towns, but they decided to build a school. So in the end, the school, the education for them has never been a problem, because they were moving all the time. they didn't need any education. They were happy, they were free. But at this moment of the climate change, so they find out that they are obliged to educate their kids to confront the new way of life, the new world. So that's why actually I couldn't really separate the education and the life of the parent fighting the nature and fighting also the government of Morocco who didn't want to help.
What came first? Was it sort of discovering the school, or was it sort of discovering the plight of these tribes and sort of like you say, sort of them having to resolve their lives to sort of the newer ideals and the newer worlds to make sure that their kids have a future?
The beginning, as I was trying to mention it, but it was about education. I was making a film. I was planning to make a film about the system of education system in Morocco, and then I find out the school first. And when I find the school, I was not really sure if that will work as a start. But when I find out the lives of these people and the reason why they are there, then at the moment I was thinking that okay, now perhaps I have some kind of element which could make an interesting film.
Was everyone sort of okay and I guess on board with you filming? Because I can imagine maybe it maybe took a bit of selling on your part to get everyone to participate.
In the beginning, it wasn't all everybody, but like for example, the father of Milud, the eldest boy, I think he was even against the school to be because he's scared of school. He's scared really of education, and he was many times saying to me, "I don't know what will happen to my son and my kids if they can get education." They will move to town. They will start to ask questions. They start to bring up some problems, and I need them to help me, and they need them to help the community. And here they are my security, my social security. I don't have any other jobs. Others they were very happy to help, and but the most of them they were really happy to help, and they were happy for, for to see me around with my cameras and so on. But that also took a little bit of time before I start to shoot because I spent many months and perhaps I'm not saying many years, but about 1 year and a half coming back to them and trying to gain first their trust. For me, that was the most important things before starting to shoot is their trust. But after that, it was very easy to be with these people, and perhaps I could say I became even one of them at some point.
Well, and I mean, it's such an interesting thing that you just said that because, I mean, for Western audiences, the idea of being scared of school or scared of education is really a foreign concept, but it isn't there. And I mean, for you as a filmmaker and a storyteller, how important was it for you to sort of at least highlight the fact that the educational system in different countries, and especially in a country like Morocco, it's going to be different. There's going to be pushback on even sort of the simplest ideas of getting a basic education.
Uh, yeah, as I said, nomads, historically they have never been interested in school or education because they were moving along the from Mauritania to north of Morocco and back during the summer. So, but in the film, I find it at some point a kind of balance for the story. Especially the father of Milud was really a little bit. He's an old way or an old-fashioned way thinking, and then in the same time, at some time he was even talking like he understood what will make for him, what will education what can bring to his son, but he didn't want to understand it. He didn't want to to fully understand really what education can bring to him and his kids. sometime he was like, well, I could give him 2 hours per day, or I could give him 1 or 2 days per week. But he didn't really know what he was talking about. He was only thinking about, I want my son to stay near me. I want my son to help me and help his family and his community. And I don't want to give up this kind of way of life. So if he goes to school, meaning my family will end up this relationship to this way of life and of nomads. So I think in somehow I was understanding him with this kind of thinking, but in the same time I couldn't understand him why he's stopping his son from going to school to give him more chance to because it does look like it won't continue this style of life. The drought and they start already to sell their herds. They start to suffer really too much, and without education, they will end up working with other people. Or if they move to the big towns, they will be living in some outskirts of big towns without jobs, without anything. And we have seen some examples. Their kids, they became really drunkards, selling drugs. They end up in prison. I mean, when you came to big town without education, you don't have any any job. You don't know what to do. All what you know is to take care of herds. So, I mean, when you don't find that, you start to search for your daily bread in different ways and in any way. So it was clear for them that way. But still they were really against moving to town and against also the school, especially about the father of Milud. So it was a little bit controversy, those ideas and the discussion when I was listening to them.
Well, I mean, in many ways, and I mean, I'm sure this wasn't sort of your intent or your idea when you started off down this road, but it felt like you were documenting almost sort of the self-realization of the death of a way of life or a lifestyle. And I mean, in many ways,
Yeah, yeah.
that's very sad. And I'm just kind of curious, was that something you were sort of self-aware to, sort of in the moment while you were shooting and seeing everything that was going on?
Well, in my way of filming, I'm always like observing and following the life of people and see what will bring. And I didn't want to interfere to that. Of course, I didn't know what will what I'm going to capture. But when I follow people searching for water, I film what they are doing and what they are meeting, what they are talking about, and so on. When Milud started to confront his father, it was just like he was in the middle of nowhere, and he came to him, said to him, "Hey, I decided now to give you 2 days. Could you stay?" And then the son started to, to react to that. So I was just observing, and that's what I got. So I was happy actually to be at that moment to record those moments. But I was aware. Yes, I was aware that a lot of things will happen, and still a lot of things happened which I didn't, for example, put in my film. Something very really great, something not. But I choose also, of course, things which works for the dramaturgy of the film.
And I mean, it's one of those things as well where it almost feels like a kind of like almost like an optimistic sort of statement towards the human experience, because we see sort of adaptability in these people, and we see sort of the willingness to at least sort of understand sort of the world that's ahead of them and be able to sort of adapt and move as they need to in order to survive. And it's one of those things where, I mean, I think maybe from a Western standpoint, we take that ability for granted, but it's a necessary thing. And
Yeah,
it's like, I think it's one of those things that really speaks to the human condition as well.
that's true. That's true. Actually, it's I think they have been suffering quite a lot, and then when they decide, and also the decision, already the decision to settle near the Atlas Mountains, it wasn't easy for them. I mean, just like you make them paralyzed, and those people, they don't know settling, they always on move, and and then they need to learn these kind of like to adapt themselves in different conditions, different situations, different way of lives, but they don't want really to just to try even to move or to immigrate to towns. That the things which they see that we could never adapt ourselves to that situation, to that condition, because they are illiterate. And one of them even said to me, imagine me moving in town when I don't make a difference between hospital and prison, between school and bar, between supermarkets and the lawyer place. So they and that's when we like you said, we take these things like for granted, and we don't put. But if we put ourselves in the place of someone who is really uneducated, he can't make a difference between two buildings, two letters, two words, and it's crazy. It's amazing actually. When I start to put myself to think like that. Imagine me for example, in Casablanca or in Rabat without reading the signs, the names. It's just horrible. So yeah, they are really they need to adapt themselves to new things, to new lives, to new conditions. But moving to town, it's the last things perhaps they are going to make. They will fight for that.
Well, and I mean, also in many ways, it really did feel like an education on climate change as well and how it affects everybody across the globe. And it's one of those things where I think the film really does highlight well that. I mean, I don't want to say resentment because that's almost the wrong word, but I mean, it's one of those things that, because of the effects of somebody else, my life is changing. And I mean, there has to be like, at least from my perspective, there has to be a little bit of again, I don't want to say resentment, but almost sort of a growing understanding of, I have to change my life because of something else, something somebody else did. And that definitely feels wrong.
Yeah. And I think those people also they are not waiting for other people to do something to help them or to. I think they are doing just if they can. Like for example, school, like teaching, like water, like they never complain to me that we need this one to do this for us or. But the other thing they complain about the MP those they say they came here, they ask us about our to vote for them, but then they disappear. At least we need to have this kind of minimum the minimum of what we deserve to be a human is a road, hospital, and school, and that is the minimum which we're asking for, and that's the work and the job of the government. That they should do that, but otherwise other stuff they do it themselves. Okay, like the government didn't take care of the school, so we're going to build it. They didn't find us a teacher, we're going to find a teacher and we're going to educate our kids. And so that's why actually I left the film towards the end in an optimistic way. The teacher and the young girl walking that empty space, hoping for some hope, something will happen in the future.
No, and I mean, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I definitely think it's important to sort of have that. And I'm kind of curious from your perspective as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, are those the kind of stories that you're drawn to? Just sort of humanistic, real, like sort of real boots on the ground sort of things that are happening in life, but not trying to be too heavy about it either, and trying to give some sort of optimism for the future rather than sort of reporting on something horrible or something sort of a place that may have some inequities that people on the other side of the world don't understand.
Yeah, well, I'm a storyteller, so if I need you to listen to me, I should and I should really make you feel happy, sit in comfortable way, and then listen to my story. Otherwise, if I start to scare you, you run away. So in a way, I love happy stories. I love to tell good stories, and I love always to give hope to my stories, and especially me, I'm really concerned about human conditions and human rights, sufferance, giving voice to the voiceless, And then if I need to work on that, I should always, I should be happy. I should be also, um, have hope in things, and try to, to look positive. But if I look negative, that doesn't work. So, like for example, I could even in the middle of these stories, you can find sense of humor. You can feel people, they are very happy, and they are, those people, they're so happy, they are very happy, very, the kind of sense of humor they have, incredible. I mean, I was amazed. So those people, they are so they're so positive, so happy, and they have hope. They always say tomorrow it will be better. We will get some kind of solution. We will find a way to resolve this question, and we will find a solution to our problems. So they are positive and happy, and yeah.
And people want to know about people too, and it's important for to be able to show portraits like this that show people who are going through difficult times but still having, optimism about it at the same time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm curious, for you, like, where did you pick up that tool to sort of understand sort of the balancing of the human condition? Like, did it come from education, or was there sort of a film in your past that sort of made you want to be a storyteller and sort of have the understanding of, sort of, I guess, understanding the full sort of spectrum of human emotion and the need to have that story arc, to not just be all depressing or all happy? There needs to be a bit of both.
Well, first of all, is in my culture, and actually I grew up with, in my with my family, especially with my grandmother. She was really a great storyteller, and she was telling me every night. She'd tell me one story before sleeping, and I just love it. And then, but at that time, she was sometimes telling me some horrible stories, some horrible stories, and they were just running away. I didn't want to listen to her. And then he says, "Please don't tell me those horrible stories. I want to hear really some good, and nice, and happy ending." Then after that, of course, my study, because I studied theater and semiology in
Okay.
films, and that helps quite a lot in understanding, the signs of move, of understanding, of communication and stuff like that, because communication is very important,
For
and
sure.
the codes which you send to someone is very important, and the channels between you, which you create between you and the audience and the receiver, is very important, and you should make it good and well. Otherwise, you can create this kind of misunderstanding. Plus, in my when I studied in France, I was also studying ethnology, and that was very, very interesting and very important. So I have been really with big professors, and they told us, most of them told us some stories which happened to them, and then, the storytelling uh, was present in my life, all my life, the whole life. So, and even me, when I have small kids, I was always telling them stories, and they believe that this is real, but it is not real. I would just like start to tell a story, and then they liked it, and they just continue and continue, and then they say, "Hey, what did they tell them? Where did they get that stuff?" So it just happened. I just need to tell stories to people, and to my kids, and to my family, to my friends. Sometimes I create some stories which never happened, even never existed. So yeah, it's part of me, part of my life, part of my daily life.
And I mean, and stories are so important, just for learning and just for living in so many ways. And I mean, I'm kind of curious from your perspective, because obviously, given what's going on in the world with the pandemic, like, you're not going to be able to sort of be there as more audiences start to sort of see your film. And I'm ultimately curious, what is your hope that people take away from School of Hope?
I think first of all is to understand that education, which we took it from granted. They should really understand that, in the other world, people, they don't have that opportunity. They can't go to school, and if they want to go to school, they need to walk 12 kilometers, 8 kilometers, 15 kilometers, and still the system is not doesn't work that good, but still they are enthusiastic, they are happy. So and then especially for kids to see that film and stand that, I think it will shake them a little bit up. And then the second thing is about the climate change. We should really start to you know, to think about the nature. We should really change our behavior toward nature. We should really appreciate a drop of water, which we have here. It's just really, we take it like a granted, we spill it, we just don't care. And you know, and that's problem of the drought and climate change. It is not only for the nomads. It is not touching only nomads, not only Moroccans, not only Africans. It will actually it is touching everybody in different way, either directly or indirectly. And I think the COVID now, what this stuff which we're living now, it is, I think it is one of those problems which we don't care. I mean, there's too much factories, too much cars, too much, you know, destroying the nature. It really it's a part of the whole system, the whole idea. And then this film just came, you know, to tell us as a testimony to this bad behavior and no care about nature, no caring about trees, plants, you know, we don't water, and I think I hope that people, they will change their behavior after all.
No, and I mean, I hope so too. And I mean, I definitely think this film is a real testament and a real sort of excellent sort of humanistic glimpse at just sort of how we're all connected and how we need to sort of understand the real basic needs and wants that everybody has in order to push ourselves forward as a species and as a human race. And it's a beautiful thing, and I just want to say thank you for the film and thank you for the time today.
Thank you very much for your time and your interest.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.